So happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another episode of The Practice. This show is an unrehearsed look into my creative process. I'm Stuart. I'm a 3D artist, illustrator, and your pal, and I'm excited to have you back. Episode 205, continuing our series of recreating the classics, celebrating and paying homage to some of the most famous paintings and most influential paintings from art history. This week, we're diving into The Girl with the Pearl Earring by Vermeer, I believe. And this one has sort of a simpler subject matter. It's only a single figure in the frame, but I think there's a lot of beautiful details we can lean into, and I'm excited to interpret this in my own style. So thanks for tuning in. Just a reminder, if you hit the link in the description below, you can support the show. You can, give us a one-time donation, buy me a beer. I'd really appreciate that. Or if you want to get involved with the community, you could donate at a higher tier. So check that link out. Consider supporting the practice and helping us out. Really appreciate it. So let's dive in. I think we'll start as we typically do by just kind of blocking the scene out. Let's create a sphere here, up the subdivisions before expanding it, turning it over to icosahedron, which gives us these triangles, which I think should be a little bit easier to sculpt. I think what I'll try to do today is really lean into some of these sculpting tools. I think that'll help us out. Cool. Cylinder, get the neck going. Now, some of these episodes have been running a little long. The American Gothic episode was like 3.5 hours. That was a tricky one. We had two figures and a fairly complex background. It's cool to challenge myself. Typically, I try to keep this show to about 2 hours. That's about the length that is appropriate. And it's tough. Like when I'm typically working on client work, I'll work for a couple hours and I'll take a little break and, go get a snack or a cup of coffee and continue working, maybe go outside and get some exercise. But when I'm doing this show, I feel the need to, continue. It wouldn't be a very good live stream if I left for a while, right? So doing 3-4 hour episodes are pretty taxing, to be honest. But in any case, let's see if this one is a little less ambitious, a little bit easier to accomplish in a couple hours. So anyway, dropping in another cylinder. Really just going to be blocking things out for the first little while here. Start working on this headband. What's up, X Stage? Thanks for tuning in. You've been pretty consistently tuning in the last several weeks. Appreciate that. Hope you're well. Add some rounding to this. Now, as you probably know, it might be worth reiterating, but I'm not going to go, I haven't, with all of these recreations, I haven't been going for a perfectly faithful reproduction of the piece. I'm sort of reinterpreting it in my style. Obviously, transferring it over to 3D and really switching the medium up like that in a big way has an effect on the way it looks. I'm not going for a perfect one-to-one recreation. Well, that would be a cool exercise, especially for 3D artists who lean a little bit more into the sort of realistic aspects of things. That is not really my strong suit. I like doing more stylized recreations of things, or just more stylized work in general. So there you have it. How's everyone doing this fine Tuesday? Now, as I'm working on this, either in the live stream chat or if you're catching this video after it's been recorded, after it's live on YouTube, I'd love your thoughts on what other pieces would be worth exploring. This is actually this piece was from a recommendation I got from a pal over on Instagram. think this is an excellent suggestion, a very recognizable painting, a fun one to interpret. But let me know if you have any sort of favorite antique or famous paintings. Let me know what you think would be a good one to try and recreate, reimagine in my style. Again, just blocking things out at first. I'm going to use the location of this cube. First, I'm going to group it, and then I'm going to drop a symmetry object into it. Not because I want to make this cube part of the symmetry object, but I just want to use that location. That way when I drop in my sphere into these symmetry objects, whoa, guys, the symmetry is a little more accurate. And what I can do is, you see the rotation here is off, but that's because it's oriented with no rotation to the world. But inside of this group, if I zero it out, then the orientation will be will match the angle of the head here. And let's zero this out. Get the ear in place. And we'll drop in that all too famous earring. I think what I also should do is drop in a camera. I've been doing that pretty early in the process, for these recreation pieces. And that's because I'm less interested in the sort of modeling aspect of it as I am the image aspect of it. That might not make perfect sense, but a lot of times when you're modeling something, you're going to be constantly rotating around it and making sure that it looks great from all the different angles that you could possibly view the object. But in this case, I'm more concerned with the 2D illustration output that we're going to be generating. So it makes sense for me to establish that camera angle early on, and that'll allow me to have a consistent place to match this image from, right? Because you could imagine if I was trying to get the angle of the neck right, and then I kept changing the camera angle, that the relative angle of the neck would look off based on the position of the camera. So that's what I'm doing. All right, blocking is going pretty quick so far. All right. Figure out the best way to sort of recreate this bust here. This is an interesting angle our character is in. She's looking over her shoulder. I think that's really part of the interest of this piece, is the way she's angled away from the viewer, from the position of the painter. She's got this sort of I'm about to leave the room kind of look. Right, doesn't she look like she's sort of on her way out? Not committed. Gonna take off any moment now. going to try and match the aspect ratio of the piece. Sort of start there. What's up, Supra? Thanks for the kind words. Appreciate you tuning in. I'm very glad you find them useful. Starting to add plenty of subdivisions here. Soon I'll expand these and start using some sculpting tools to get a little more roundness and smoothness and start, injecting some of these folds and wrinkles from the fabric. That is a big pearl, very large pearl. I forget exactly the story of this painting, but my understanding that this gal was like the servant or worked for, something like this, worked for a very wealthy person. And I think it was sort of scandalous that she was gifted this enormous earring instead of the wife. Something like that. It's hard to see some of the details here, and I think it's going to be okay to simplify a little bit. Let's assume there's some sort of cap. Something like that, perhaps. I'm taking some liberties here. There's probably a loop that would have gone through her ear, of course, but that's fine. Neck is too long. Let's grab the hat, sphere, set down the neck. I think I'll want to actually pull that earring out. Could be just the angle of the way I've got everything right now. Could be some, selective omissions on behalf of Vermeer when he originally painted this, but I don't want this guy to be, this second earring to be in view. I'm just going to go ahead, pull that earring out. I have it a little bit too large at the moment as well. Last thing left to block in here, the tassel coming down from her head wrap. Tassel's probably the wrong word. This extra wrappy bit. I'm trying to think what the best way to handle that would be. Maybe a sweep, maybe loft. Just a piece of geometry that we could sculpt. Tricky. That might be the trickiest bit of this all. That and the look on her face, I think, are going to be the toughest things. It's sort of tough to tell what's going on as well because of the shadowing here. I expect this to be kind of S-shaped almost. Half of mine to just kind of start with a Bezier here, sculpt from there. I don't know if that's the right move. Try it out though. Might be a good idea maybe to use a couple of them. Let's do that. Yeah, it might make sense to just use a few of them, sort of. This kind of thing. Just for now. I'll have some sculpting to get into later. Gets us pretty close, actually. All right. First scarf going to be so tricky. Yeah, that's that's right, Deanne. What's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, that's what I've been. I don't know if you caught me sort of complaining about that. I've been maybe procrastinating a little bit and adding that, but yeah, I think that's going to be one of the hardest parts of this whole piece. Now let's get a simple setup for the mouth going. And we'll start sculpting. Boom, done with the mouth. Just kidding. It's actually not so bad, just for a quick little first pass. Kind of like that. Simple. It almost sort of captures the expression on her mouth. All right. So what I'm gonna do before I start sculpting is just make a copy of this whole thing, because I'm gonna want to back up. I have a feeling I'm gonna need to go back some of these elements, redo them, so to speak. So expand that. Start with this scarf kind of deal. Upper part of her outfit. Go there. What I'm also going to do is lock this camera because I accidentally move it all the time. So, put protection on there. What's up, Sam? That is one of the sculpt tools. Now, a lot of times I would go up into this layout and go to sculpt. That would give you access to those. What you can also do is go to sculpt, and there's all these brushes. What I've done is I've customized my palettes and put all those brushes right here. Makes it super useful. Got it, Sam. Thanks for tuning in. Now, oops. Oh, weirdly, her head is a child of the earring, which is not what I want. It's already been expanded, so that's all right. Let's start like this. What I'm going to do is, since I'm working on her face, I'm going to go over to symmetry in this tool. Turn that on. Got to choose which axis or axes you'd like your symmetry to live on. It's going to make it a little easier to do the face here. Noticing that the eyes are a little bit high. Man, I can't believe how much I like this mouth just on the first pass. Make sort of a depression in the eye area. Do that just by holding with any brush that you have. This is the draw tool, the pull tool. It operates just sort of like a paintbrush. You just paint on, and it'll pull the surface of the object out. Now, if you hold Control, pretty much any of these tools, what it's going to do is it's going to have the opposite effect. Instead of pulling it out, it's going to push the surface in. What's up, BLTs and crafts? Thanks for tuning in. How you doing today? Gaurav Pal, what's up to you? Thanks everyone for tuning in. A lot of new names in the chat today. Appreciate that. I said this a little earlier in the stream, but if there are, and you know what? Now that I've got placement here, I'm going to pull these guys out and just deal with this head object on its own. Thank you, Gaurav. Appreciate you tuning in. I think you made a 3D from a sketch of mine, crocodile. No, don't believe so. Typically don't do that kind of thing, like a draw this in your style. In fact, these videos that I'm doing now are like really the first of that I've done, and I'm doing it sort of an homage to some of the master paintings, the masterpieces, and you know, the great artists of art history. Not that I recall. But what I was going to say is that, that looks kind of janky and terrible. If there are any paintings that you're a big fan of, any pieces from art history that you'd like to see me reproduce in my style, just drop a comment. I'm taking suggestions. I'm taking requests. This piece actually was a request from a friend of mine on Instagram. Appreciate that, Katie. I think that's a really great suggestion. Ideally, I'm looking for kind of famous, very recognizable paintings. So far, I've done a Picasso piece. I've done American Gothic, and I started with the Mona Lisa. That really was like the most famous. I go ahead and just subdivide this whole thing because I need a little more geometry in there. That's looking really kind of janky. I'm going to turn the subdivision down on this subdivision surface. And I'm going to just smooth some of this geometry out a bit. Another thing you could do is while holding the shift tool, or while having any of these sculpt tools open and holding the shift key, you can just kind of smooth things out. Very useful. Sure, you can link the crocodile picture. Nope. It's cool. I've never seen this piece though. Sorry. Was that your version of it, or is that the recreation? Hmm. Worries. It might be worth adding eyelids now. That. Not so bad. Not super accurate, but I wanna, you know, the challenge is really to capture the spirit of the piece, but to reinterpret it in my own style. And to that end, I might leave the mouth and the nose just really simplistic and stylized like this. All right. I'm going to turn off symmetry. Don't let me forget, if I come back to the face, don't let me forget to turn symmetry back on. Be a big mistake. Smooth out the top here. Well, thank you. Appreciate you checking the work out. Maybe you found my stuff over on Instagram. I have the same handle there as I do here. It's Diligence, DLGNCE. Check it out. I've got it up on the screen too, so I don't need to spell it out for y'all. What's up, Sam? I am right now I'm in Austin, Texas. That is actually going to be changing soon, and I have to. We're moving in about a month, and I have to say, unfortunately, that I'll probably be taking a week or two off during that moving process. I'll be relocating to the Philadelphia area, which is where I grew up. We lived in the Philly area for a really long time. Got married, and my wife and I moved out to San Francisco shortly after getting married to chase some career opportunities, which was really amazing. Worked out well in a lot of ways, and we've really loved our time there. And we were sick of the cost of living and certain other things about the Bay Area where, we'd sort of had our fill. So we relocated to Austin, Texas. It was, in many ways a financial decision. And we like it here too. There's a lot to like about, super expensive. That's a lot of the reason why we left, to be honest. And while Austin is a great city with a lot to love, ultimately I think we're sort of ready to move home. Folks are getting a little older. And, this seems like the right time. I was talking about this earlier in the stream, but I'm not focusing on the whole thing as a 3D model. I'm focusing on the front of it so I can recreate this image. How much that's sculpting. And you can see just how ridiculous the back of it looks, right? That's all right. That's, what we're after. I think it's a little premature, but I'm starting to add in some of these wrinkles. Some of this stuff to the cloth. I might wind up subdividing that once again. A little bit. All right, now want to procrastinate a bit more now. Let's get into it. This is going to be one of the more difficult things. Wow, that's awesome, Sam. Grüß dich. Wie geht's? Ich habe ein Semester in Heidelberg studiert. My German's very, very rusty, although I used to speak it a little bit. Ich habe fast alles vergessen. How'd I do? I'm not going to try and pronounce Munich in German. That'll be very, very bad. Auf Deutsch. Haha, verstehe. Woraus kommst du? Yeah, the scarf part. I'm gonna get punished. I don't know why this stupid is showing up. Heck. Oh, you know what? It's because my normals are reversed. It only wants to show up on the exterior edge, not the interior edge. What I need to do is select everything, and you can sort of tell the outside will be orange when selected, the inside will be blue, and I'll just hit UR. Boom. Reversing my normals. Just gonna drag these over and scoot them in. This is gonna be kind of rough. It'll be funny if we wind up spending the entire episode practically just bashing around on this scarf. I could do that. That's not a bad idea. But I'm not necessarily looking for realistic cloth. I'm looking to recreate this. I think it might actually be more difficult to do that with the cloth sim. Maybe not. Instead of using the sculpting tools for a moment here, I'm just going to use soft selection. Just kind of drag it into place. It's not a terrible idea, honestly. If this winds up not working out so well, then I can try doing that. I think I'm actually going to do okay with this. See how it goes. Famous last words, right? Give me 20 minutes. Maybe I'll be just dying. What's up, Niraj? Thanks for tuning in and thanks for the question. I'm just going to do procedural Probably do essentially all of my my texturing. Keep it simple. I will probably do some sampling directly from the painting itself to grab some of the colors. I wind up adding some subsurface scattering to the skin, all that good stuff. We're getting sort of close. I don't need it to look perfect, and maybe I'll actually add some displacement into the texture itself when we get to that point, just to give it a little bit of extra sort of bump and wrinkle. Got it a little bit too long at the moment too. Just that up. It's not too bad. Getting there. Not as painful as I thought it might be. I could just grab the polygons with some soft selection turned on and get them roughly in place. Come back through with some of the sculpting tools and just, smooth things out, push them and pull them a little closer where I need them. Thanks, Niraj. Appreciate it. I keep saying this, but please do let me know if there's any other paintings you'd like to see me try and recreate. Ideally, famous, well-known ones from throughout art history. I'm like starting to compile a list. Whoops. See, now I'm doing what I said I wouldn't. I'm starting to modify our face here. I want to make sure that I've got symmetry turned on. Like I was saying, I'm starting to compile a little list here of different paintings that people have suggested, both here and on Instagram. This piece was a suggestion as well. Can see your teeth just a little bit, can't you? But I am, as I go through the series, I am sort of taking liberties and simplifying things because I wanna make sure that I'm recreating these in my style. As I adjust the camera angle slightly here. And I like to take sort of a reductive style, and I actually think, even though it doesn't show the teeth, I feel like this mouth sort of gets at the look a little bit. What do you guys think? Close enough? Kind of getting the feel, so to speak, without being an exact reproduction. Let's keep going on this scarf. Oh, yeah, I can see what you mean. She's kind of pouty, right? Got that Malibu housewife, that trophy housewife lip injection kind of look. I know what you mean, especially with the huge upper lip. I hear you. This woman actually doesn't have that huge upper lip. Better? No? Slightly different? Glad you like it. Whoops. What is the scarf? Make another copy of it, throw it in my off layer here. Select these, I'm going to subdivide, and then I'm going to use this knife tool. Wrinkles in it. Yeah. I have very little sculpting experience in the real world. I think in Cinema 4D in this program, I think it would be a little less realistic. I think in a program like ZBrush, I think you might be able to take more of your real world sculpting skills into the computer. Although I have to imagine that they're really not very similar, to be honest. Imagine that they're quite different. I think when it comes to design and creative pursuits, um, there's a lot of lessons that will remain true that'll carry over, so to speak. Um, things like contrast, use of color. Um, you know, a lot of the creative decision making you'll do will be the same. Like your taste in art will inform the digital world. But no, I think they're quite different. I mean, it's not perfect for sure. Scarfy deal. It's not awful either. Certainly gives the feeling. Let's see. What else is there to sculpt? I think we should make her collar fit a little better. It should seem fairly simple in comparison. What I'll do point is add some lighting. This is fairly straightforward lighting, I think. We're definitely going to tweak it a bit and make it look great, but really what we have is a strong directional light. Fairly strong shadowing as well. I'm just going to grab some values directly from this. That lipstick is not a good look on her. It's funny how I liked the lips before and now I can't stand them. I'm going to try a slightly different approach here. Enjoy the river, Sam. Thanks for tuning in. It's not even going to include that part of the earring. You can't even see it. Add just a really subtle blue fill light off to the side because it looks like we do have some sort of blue shading over here. I can go a little heavier with it. 25%. Oh, and I didn't add any blue. What's up, Fong? Thank you. I'm just going to copy these coordinates and paste this other eye over there. A little easier on myself. I also think I should subdivide this guy again. Add a few wrinkles. Get out that handy knife tool, which gives us some sort of wrinkly effects. What's up, Agua? Ahoy! Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I like that idea. Fortunately, I think with this one, we're a little too far gone. I mean, maybe from this angle it works. Maybe from this one a little bit, but then once we get behind our friend here, it looks a little strange. Forgetting my rule that when we're working on the face, I have to have symmetry turned on. We don't have to, but help. Right, I already messed it up. Far gone. be a real bummer. Too bad. Totally. I guess I didn't even notice it when we started out here, but I'm just noticing now she doesn't have eyebrows. It actually makes it a little easier on us. One less thing to model. Thanks, Ramir. This might be a little bit too much. Go into surfaces, the mask option in reflectance. And I'm going to go to pulls, bricks, rings, weave. Go. Right? Isn't that weird? You don't even, I mean, when you're looking at it, you don't even miss them. She's fine without them. You can see what that weave pattern is doing in the fabric here. Obviously that needs to get much smaller. All it's doing is it's almost sort of like a bump, but what I'm doing is just eliminating the specularity from certain areas in the pattern of this texture. What's up, Inzet Game Studios? How's it going? Thanks for the kind words. Just a little adjustment to the lighting and materiality here. That's cool. I got you, Inzek. I can understand you. Gracias. Yo gusto. I don't speak Spanish. You could probably tell. Oh man, I've attempted to speak German and Spanish on this episode. That's a new record for me. Getting pretty close. Obviously, this isn't an exact reproduction, but like I mentioned a handful of times, that's not really the goal here. The goal is to sort of pay homage in my own style, challenge myself with certain things. Like I think some of the challenging bits were obviously the face is tricky, the lips were kind of tricky, getting the material, the sort of cloth feeling to this scarf area was a bit tricky. I want this a bit more visible. Slide this forward, kind of angle it differently. Get a bit taller so hopefully it catches a bit more of the light. Serial Fade, hey man, recognize that name? Yeah, I've been streaming with the camera on the last little while, last several months at least. Appreciate it, Jan Harm. Thanks for the comment. We got that in view, and I think it's actually a bit too much, so let's make it a bit smaller. That's about right, I think. Let's actually grab a little bit more. Bring this little strip in. Fortunately, that's knocking out a lot of those wrinkles we had put in. So let's get that knife tool back out. Another wrinkle or two in there. See what we got. For now, I'm just using the standard Cinema 4D renderer. That's what I do pretty much all my work in, believe it or not. I have been looking into Octane recently. I think I'm gonna, after I make the move, I think I'm gonna invest in Octane. I've been looking at it, I've been hearing enough good things, and I think it might finally be time. Oh man, it's past your bedtime, Dean. Go to bed. Get some rest. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, well, I'm about to call it an episode anyway. Let's set up a slightly larger rendering. I think we should actually zoom in just a little bit more. Closer. Frame her up a little better. Actually, come to think of it, I think she's a little yellower here in the fabric. I'm showing I've got her sort of a golden look. Let's try that. That's something we can adjust in Photoshop as well if we like. Yeah, it's a little better, I think. I think we need a few more wrinkles up here. Nice. All right. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. This has been a fun one. Challenging, but not quite as hard as some of the other sort of recreations we've done in the past. Why don't I pull up the original here as I'm chatting? I think there were some unique challenges here. It was really useful working on the cloth. I think I've learned a bit there. Got some good practice in with the sculpting tools. She looks pretty decent. Actually, you know what? One more thing. Let's be a lot shinier. All right, it is the girl with the pearl earring after all, so let's make that pearl proper. Also need to probably open up that width a bit, but not the roughness. Right, this default specular, let's make that wider and stronger. Right. You don't like the shine on the mat? On the pearl? Which material? I think this one is too shiny. I think somewhere in here is a little better. What we need. know what? I thought I was close to done, but noticing a few more things. Yeah. Sort of see what you mean. Turn it down a little bit. It does have this sort of luminant feel to it, though. Have this sort of shininess to it. See, I think part of the problem is this is too smooth a surface. What I'm addressing now, actually. Right. I think that adjustment in the lighting helped a bit. better. Right. Yeah, I think it's actually better without that texture. All right. A little bit of retouching. I think I'm about ready to call that a finished piece. What's up, Mastering VFX? Unfortunately, tuned in right at the end, but thank you anyway. I think this was a really interesting exercise. It was kind of challenging in certain ways, though it didn't go as long as some of the other episodes we did recently, where we've recreated masterworks from famous artists in the past. I think there's some good qualities here. Definitely some details we could have pushed further if we had more time. We could have definitely sculpted more wrinkles and stuff into the fabric and everything. But I think it's a pretty solid reproduction. So let me know what you think. If there's other paintings, any other famous paintings from art history in the past that you'd like to see done in this series, let me know. I think I'll be cruising along doing this type of thing for a little while now. If you want to keep up with me and the work that I'm doing, hit me up at DLGNCE on Instagram and all the other Twitters, where I'll be posting the finished pieces here. If you want to support the practice, hit the link in the description below. Very much appreciate that. Join the community and get some perks and some feedback and interact with other folks who are enjoying the practice. Please hit that subscribe and like button. Help me out in the YouTube algorithm. And until next Tuesday, this is Stuart saying goodbye. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Later.